Hello everyone. On this video we will be going over cones and frustums of cones, which is pretty similar to the pyramids and frustum of pyramids video. Pretty much the same idea. Okay, so starting off we will look at a cone, which is defined as a pyramid-like figure with a circular base. And here's the image here. You have your circular base where we will let the radius r equal the radius of the base. The diameter is, of course, the diameter of the base. So if you have the radius and the diameter is from one end to the other. Okay. Then you have the slant height of the base, which is the slant height of the lateral surface. And then you have the altitude of the cone, which is the distance from the center of the base, the circular base, to the apex, which is right at the top of the cone. Okay. Now, in some instances, they will give you your slant height. They'll say your slant height is 8 feet or something like that. In the case that they do not give you your slant height, you can find your slant height by making S equal the square root of your altitude squared plus your radius squared. Okay, so you can find the slant height even if they don't give it to you. Okay. Now, to find your lateral surface area, if you know the radius, you use L is equal to pi times your radius times your slant height. If you know the diameter, you will use L equals 1/2 times pi times the diameter times your slant height. Okay. What about the volume? Well, if you know your radius, your volume of the cone will be 1 divided by 3, or 1/3, times pi times the radius squared times the altitude. Or, if you know your diameter, your volume will be 1/12 times pi times the diameter squared times the altitude. Now, you can combine the 1/12 times pi and get this approximate value here, 0.2618 times the diameter squared times the height. Using either one of those is pretty much the same, depends on how precise you want your answer. So if you're rounding to the nearest whole number, 10th or 100th, you can use this one. But if you want to get a more precise answer, just plug this in and you'll get an answer that's a little more precise, more decimal places. Okay, but in most cases, this will be just fine. Okay, now to find the total surface area. Okay, so the total surface area is really just the area of the cone, or the area of the lateral surface area, plus the area of the base. Okay, so to find the total surface area, when you're looking at the radius only, it's pi times the radius plus the slant height. When you're looking at just the diameter, it's pi over 2 times the diameter, and multiply that by the diameter divided by 2 plus the slant height. Okay, so if you are still writing this, feel free to press pause, but we're going to go ahead and move on to our first example. Okay, so what if we wanted to find the lateral surface area and the volume of the cone below? Round to the nearest whole unit. So we can see here that they gave us our radius because it only goes from the center to the circle. So we know our radius of the base. We know our altitude because it goes from the cone, from the base of the cone all the way to the apex. And we know our slant height. Okay, so I want you to press pause and go ahead and try to solve this one on your own. All right, so I'm assuming you've pressed pause and already worked this one out. So let's go ahead and verify. So the first thing you want to do is find or identify your altitude, your slant height, and either your diameter or radius, depending on which one that particular problem may give you. Okay, so in this case, they gave us the radius. Okay, so we know that our altitude is equal to 15 inches. Our slant height is equal to 18 inches. And we know that our radius is equal to 10 inches. Okay, so to find our lateral surface area, it's pi times the radius times the slant height. That's going to equal pi times our radius, which is 10 inches, times our slant height, which is 18 inches. Okay, so that's going to equal pi times 180 square inches, which if you multiply 180 times pi, that will be approximately 565.48667, and it keeps on going and going and going, inches squared. But we want it rounded to the nearest whole unit, so that's approximately 565 square inches. Which is our rounded lateral surface area. Okay, so now we can look at the volume. And again, because we know the radius, we're going to use the radius volume formula, which is 1/3 pi times the radius squared times the altitude. Okay, so that's going to equal 1/3 times pi times your radius squared, which is 10 inches squared, times your altitude, which is 15 inches. Okay, so this is going to be 1/3 times pi times 10 squared is 10 times 10, which is 100. So that's 100 square inches times 15 inches. Okay, so that's going to equal 1/3 times pi times 1,500 cubic inches. Okay, now if we go ahead and we multiply 1,500 times pi and divide that by 3, we will end up with approximately 1,570.7963, and it keeps on going, inches cubed. Okay, but if we round it to the nearest whole number, 1,571 cubic inches. All right. So if you are still writing this, feel free to press pause and finish up. But we're going to go ahead and move on to our next page, which goes over the frustum of a cone. Okay, so pretty similar to the frustum of a pyramid, the frustum of a cone is just the cone where you chop off a portion from the top. Okay, but as long as your chop is parallel to the base at the bottom. Okay, so it's not going to be a slanted chop, it's just a chop right across. Okay, and this is the frustum that you end up with. Just the bottom portion is the frustum, so we now have our lower base, and just like here, we have our upper base where we made our chop. We had our altitude, which is the distance between the two bases, and we have our slant height, which is the height of the slant or the height of the lateral surface area. Okay, so what if we have an A1 or A sub 1, which is equal to the area of the upper base, or the area of that part of it. We have a sub 2, which is the area of the lower base, which is, of course, that part. So we have our upper and lower bases, which are circles. So it's just the area of a circle and the area of this circle. We have the radius of the upper base. We have the radius of the lower base for R1 and R2. What if D1 is equal to the diameter of the upper base, and D2 is equal to the diameter of the lower base? Okay, and what if S is our slant height of the frustum, and H is our altitude of the frustum, which is just the distance between the two bases. All right, so we were looking for the lateral surface area. If we know the radii, okay, radii is just plural for radius. So if you have more than one radius, it's radii. Okay, so if you have your radii, you have pi times the slant height times the upper radius and the lower radius. Okay, or if you know the diameters, it's 1/2 times pi times the slant height times the upper diameter plus the lower diameter. Okay, what if we're looking for the volume? Again, if you know the radii, you have 1/3 times pi times your altitude times, you're going to add all these three together first. You have the radius of the upper base squared plus the radius of the lower base squared plus the radius of the upper base and the lower base multiplied. Okay, or if you know the diameters, you have 1/12 times pi times the altitude times the upper diameter squared plus the lower diameter squared plus the upper diameter times the lower diameter. So all of those will be added and then multiplied to everything over here. Okay, and the total surface area is really just the lateral surface area, which is the area along the sides, plus the upper base area and the lower base area. All right, so if you are still writing these formulas, feel free to press pause and finish up, but we're going to go ahead and move on to a quick example. Okay, so what if you wanted to find the lateral surface area, the total surface area, and the volume of the frustum, and you round your answer to the nearest whole number? Okay, so you see here, you have your 4, you have your 10, you have your 8.5, and you have your 9.0. Okay, I'll let you figure out what's what, because I want you to press pause and solve this one on your own. Alright, so I'm assuming you've pressed pause and you've already worked this one out. So let's go ahead and verify. Okay, so the first thing you want to do is you want to find your slant height, either your upper radius or your upper diameter, your lower radius or your lower diameter, your altitude, your upper area, and your lower area. Now you only have to find these two if you're looking for your total surface area. Okay, if you're not looking for your total surface area, you don't even have to bother looking for those. Okay, but you do need the rest of them, just not those two. Okay, so we know that our slant height is 9 feet. Uh-oh, we got my 9. Okay, we know our altitude, distance between the bases, is 8.5. It would help if I wrote the letter first. Okay. Now on this one, we see that they went from one side of the base to the other, one side of the base to the other. So we know they're our diameter. So we have our upper diameter and our lower diameter. So our upper diameter is equal to 4 feet, and our lower diameter is equal to 10 feet. Okay, so we can always find the area, but we don't need it for our lateral surface areas. We're going to find the A1 and A2 on our next step. So our lateral surface area okay, we know that L is equal to 1/2 times pi times the slant height times D1 plus D2, since we know our diameters. Okay, so that's going to equal 1/2 times pi times our slant height, which you know is 9 feet, times our upper diameter plus our lower diameter. So it's 4 feet plus 10 feet. Okay, so we have to simplify what's in here first. Okay, so that's going to equal 1/2 times pi times 9 feet times 14 feet. Okay, so we can go ahead and combine these two. 9 times 14 is 126. So we have 1/2 times pi times 126 square feet. If you wanted to, you can go ahead and replace 1/2 with 0.5. Same thing. Okay, so you have 0.5 times pi times 126 will be approximately 197.92 square feet. Since we want to round it to the nearest whole number, you have about 198 square feet. Okay, so that's our lateral surface area, rounded. Okay, we want to find our total surface area. Let me go ahead and move that up. Okay, so that is our total surface area, which is our lateral surface area, plus our upper base area, plus our lower base area. Okay, now just for a reminder, the area of a circle is 1/4 pi times the diameter squared. Okay, so we know that our total surface area is going to equal our lateral surface area, which we don't want the rounded value, we want this value first. Then we're going to round it at the end, 197.92 square feet, plus your upper surface area. So that's going to be 1/4 pi times the upper diameter squared. So that's 4 feet squared. Make a little bit of room here. There we go. Plus our lower diameter area, which is 1/4 pi times 10 feet squared. Now, if you wanted, you could have figured these out on the side and then plug them in. It's completely up to you. All right, so this is going to equal 197.92 square feet. So if you get 4 feet squared, which is 4 feet by 4 feet, which is 16 square feet, divided by 4 is 4 square feet, multiplied by pi, you end up with 12.5664, and it keeps on going, square feet. Plus, if you get 10 feet squared, 10 times 10 is 100. 100 divided by 4 is 25. 25 times pi is about 78.5398 square feet. So if you add all these together, you get about 289.02, and it keeps on going, square feet. But since we want to round it to the nearest whole number, it rounds to about 289 square feet. All right. So we're running out of paper or room on this page. We're going to continue this on the next page. So if you're still writing, feel free to press pause. But we're going to go ahead and continue this on the next page. There we go. So we're going to go ahead and look for our volume. Okay, so the volume formula for the diameter, the volume is equal to 1 over 12 times pi times the altitude times the upper diameter squared. Let me make that 1 a little clearer. Plus the lower diameter squared plus the upper diameter times the lower diameter. Okay, so this is going to equal 1 over 12 times pi times your altitude, which we know is 8.5 feet, times your upper diameter, which is 4 feet squared, plus your lower diameter, which is 10 feet squared, plus the upper diameter times the lower diameter. So it's 4 feet times 10 feet. Okay, so let's go ahead and simplify it. So we have 1 over 12 times pi times 8.5 feet. Remember, we have to simplify what's in there first. So 4 feet squared, it's 4 feet times 4 feet. So that's 16 square feet. Plus 100 feet squared is 10 feet, I mean not 100 feet. 10 feet squared is 10 feet times 10 feet, which is 100 square feet. Plus 4 feet times 10 feet is 40 feet squared, or 40 square feet. Okay. Once again, we're just going to go ahead and combine that because we have to simplify what's in there first. So that's 1 over 12 times pi times 8.5 feet times 16 feet plus 100 feet plus 40 feet is 156 square feet. Well, square feet. Okay, so if we get 156 times 8.5 times pi divided by 12, we get approximately 347.146 cubic feet. Because we have square feet times feet, it's cubic feet. And rounded to the nearest whole number, we get 347 cubic feet as our rounded value. All right, so hopefully this all made sense, and I will see you on the next video.